Got it.
I got it.
We would hope.
Hello, it's going through.
Hey, it's
There
working.
we go.
Well, there we
Hey.
go. We finally did it. Thank you guys. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Jimmy. Welcome to SJGames Live for real this time. My name's Hunter. My name is Hunter, and we are here with a special guest. We're doing an interview today. We're joined by Douglas Cole from Gaming Ballistic. Thanks for joining us today, Douglas.
It's excellent to be here. Always glad to talk to the folks at SJGames and talk about gaming.
Yeah. So the reason we're talking to Douglas is he's worked on a lot of stuff with Dungeon Fantasy. You may have seen his Nordland series of books at this point, his entire supplement. I believe I was looking at your Kickstarters. You've run it 19 now, right?
Yeah. No,
And a lot of them are Dungeon Fantasy.
It's I've done, I think, 18 crowdfunding campaigns, and published coming on almost 40 books total. I tend to do multiple books at once. And Artifacts of Legend represents my 18th and 19th Dungeon Fantasy role-playing game offering.
That's awesome. And yeah, speaking of multiple books, this new Kickstarter, which is live right now, we'll link that in the comments below. It's Artifacts of Legend. It's a 2-book series about Artifacts of Legend.
Yeah, that's right. It's you know what it really boils down to, and there's some economics here, but practically speaking, I prefer, and I think my customers prefer, books that lay flat on the table. And when it became clear that Artifacts was going to be a sizable offering, we had a choice, and looking at the way things go and the way things have been going, and so I decided to split it into 2 saddle stitch books. The same way that Serpents of Legend, which was the nightmare fueled books, it's kind of the same deal, right? As it stands now, up until we fund, up until we do, if we do quite well, it's going to be 2 separate volumes. But if we do really, really well, there will materialize an unannounced stretch goal to do a hardcover sewn
nice.
binding. But to do that requires like twice the funding that
Sure.
is there. And we're still about 77% funded. We have 9 days to go, so it's not impossible, but
No.
what I didn't want to throw out there something that would require a level of uptake in rough economic times that would make the books not happen. So we'll do them the way that they are, and if we suddenly see an acceleration, then hey, I like hardcovers too. I mean, I think people appreciated the production quality and the physical weight of the Nordland Bestiary when it came out, and so I'd love to do something like that again.
Big project like that. Well, and this, not to say this is a small, because like I said, it's 2 books. There's a lot of content here. I want to mention to people that might be seeing the project link in the comments, feel free to leave a comment if you have a question or something like that, or something that comes up, or if you just have a general question for Doug about production, Dungeon Fantasy, stuff like that, just drop it in the comments below. We'll circle back around at the end and check those out. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about these books themselves. So let me pull up that info that you sent me here. Sorry, we were having to go back and forth on our tech support issues here, so I had to close a few things out. But it
was really starting to vaguely resemble the call from the octopus Dave from the Minions, from the Penguins movie. It's like talking to my mother.
So one of the big draws here is this is a generator, right? So we've got the ability to actually generate our own artifacts.
That's right. So it was one of those things that initially the book was the artifacts, and then Marco and I came up with the what we really need to do here is take this and do a random table, because people like random tables. But it extends the utility of the book. Not only do you have in the two books about 20 ready to go major artifacts, you can generate minor ones, and we came up with a few different takes on that. One of the conceits of the Dungeon Fantasy role-playing game, and Nordland as well, is the principle that the cool stuff is in the dungeon, right? You don't mail order it. You don't go to Magic Home, Viking Home Depot or whatever, and go pick up the magic item that you want. You have to go find it. And so in support of that, we the thing is that however many millennia ago, there was something that broke the ability for humans to enchant items permanently, and that was interesting, except for the fact that people like to have their custom magic items, and so we were brainstorm a couple of ways to bring that back, and so we came up with several of them, one of which is showed up in Delvers to Grow, but it's an old take. It's the named item or named possession from various books and articles that have appeared before. It also appeared as rune crafted items in the Delvers to Grow Fast Delvers book. And so all of that is really just, you pay a perk point, and if you do cool stuff, you can spend your character points or earn legend points or whatever to power up the item. And that was the gods taking favor, showing favor to a heroic deed by empowering the weapon. But then as we were doing stuff, we were like, well, what would happen if you had to bypass the non-ability to enchant, and you stole a spirit, whether it was a demon or an elemental, or even what happened if a ghost tied itself to an item instead of haunting? It felt its work was not done, and its work was violent work, or it went into a torch because it really was desperate to see what was in the future, what was in the down the hall. And so we came up with spirit bound items, and that took on a bit of a life of its own, and went from like a paragraph to like 6 pages, and then that built off of the generator. So there's kind of the main generator is in the Artifacts of Legend book, but the spirit bound items is taking on a bit of a life of its own. And you can use it narratively, or you can roll some dice to go do that.
Nice. And yeah, you mentioned like tables are a lot of fun, and everyone likes rolling tables, but having a customizer that has a little bit of an identity is also nice too. It's like it's nice to have all the options, if that makes sense.
Right. Absolutely.
Since we got you there, do you have any images we could show off? Maybe show some of the sneak peeks or something of the.
Sure, absolutely. Well, let's begin at the beginning, I guess. So let me see. Where are we? We're zooming here, and I can share my screen. Oh, I can share my screen. Excellent.
You should have that. Yeah, there we go.
Is it working?
Yep, there it is.
Excellent. Okay, so this is the cover to Artifacts of Saga, the one with the spirit-bound weapons, featuring an evil lieutenant holding what is a flange mace that is one of the items in the book called a white hand, the white hand of darkness, WIGHT, of course. We can continue with the puns. Trust me, we've done them all.
You're the right
stuff,
company.
do the white thing, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so on the front is our evil henchman with defeating a good guy with the white hand, and on the back we have a couple people coming to battle, and the wizard in the same pose, I think deliberately, as the old GURPS Magic book, folding up a folding boat. Which is actually, the folding boat is part of Norse mythology as well. And so in the background we have the burning town, because bad guys are always burning towns. The white hand is, let me see if I can bring it up.
I love that dude's face. The guy holding the white hand.
Yeah. We just wanted him to be, if you're gonna to be evil, wallow in it, So the okay, I'm showing this is the actual
This is the file.
this is the file. This is the layout file.
This looks great.
Yeah,
Never done this white hand.
so this is yeah, this is really real time. So this is the white hand, right? It makes the person carrying it look like they're undead. They pick up, doesn't breathe, doesn't eat or drink, doesn't sleep, immunity to disease and poison, unhealing, unliving, right? And so but they're not susceptible to turning. So it's one of these things where like a lich might give a white hand to a human minion who is a servitor, so that he wouldn't get torn apart by his own undead, because it's too undead. It looks like an undead. But he's not susceptible to the sort of things that, pesky clerics will bring to bear. And so you've got, white hands are can be made somehow. And, it would not be out of line that the white hand was created through spirit binding, taking the souls of powerful undead and stuffing them in there. And the theory of spirit binding is that that it's sort of the enchantments of desperation, right? You'll have to forgive some of the layout, right? I do bits and bits
Sure,
as I
sure.
go, and but
I mean, we're still in the Kickstarter phase of it, so
yeah,
good.
so but and we'll come to that. Legends is effectively done except for the art. There's a few things that I might want to tweak out. I was tweaking out the graphic design earlier. But anyway, so when you can't enchant, you need to do something, because some magical creatures don't are not susceptible to regular weapons, so you need something. But the spirit binding is basically stuffing something that has a soul or a spirit, or a demon, or even an Asgardian that is basically only spirit. Stuff that into a prison using a new spell, imprison spirit. And it's kind of like the entrap spirit spell, which is in the spells book from Dungeons Fantasy role playing game, but it's leaky. It purposefully allows some of the abilities out, and the more abilities you let out, the higher the cost of the item, and the more power, but also the more that the spirit within can influence the wielder. And so we also introduced the concept of a Hedgefield item, and the Hedgefield is a cognate for some people. It means hero filled. So part of the lore for the ghost from the Nordland Bestiary, I'll bring that up there because the Nordland Bestiary is awesome. Everyone should buy it. Ghost. No, different ghost. Come on, ghost. The actual ghost. There it is. Right. So when a ghost is formed, when either a sort of an imprint of the spirit, or the actual soul of the person is not done, they're not done, and they reject or won't move on to the afterlife, and maybe they're there to to protect the children, or they've been murdered and they want the murderer caught. And so a hero-filled item is what happens when somebody of strong will and spirit inhabits an item because they don't feel that their role is done. And so we have an item. This is kind of a fun one. I think it's fun. But so we have let's see. Mojrast, mother's love. So the story here behind this item is that there was a raid, and the mom was defending family, and she died, and one of her daughters picks up the weapon that she was using, and she's like, no, can't have that. So she goes into the weapon, and it becomes this empowered thing against the undead.
That's cool.
And then it's passed down through families and to worthy daughters through history. But it allows you to really give some story to some of the things. And then you have like the winged axe, which is also here on the page, which is basically just a giant long axe that has an air elemental in it to make it light, so you can whip it around as if it were a small axe. And then artifacts of legend is more stuff that the gods handed to mankind in order to help with mighty deeds and noble things that please please the gods, and you have things like, of course, you have the storm hammer, because of course you do. Who doesn't want to wield Mjolnir, right? I'm sorry, totally not Mjolnir. So, come on, right?
The legally distinct Mjolnir.
The legally distinct Mjolnir, right? Well, you can't really copyright Mjolnir. It's
No.
it's not exactly unknown. All right, so Ratatasker's Tooth. That's a fun one. It's a weapon that pisses you off because it never stops talking. If you
There's
know,
a funny comment here from
Go ahead.
chat. Stuff the spirit of your dead player character into the gear of the replacement player character.
right, right. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff, right? And so the way that this works here is for these legendary items. Each one of them comes with one or all of what we call Eddas, sagas, and rumors. And the Edda is, this is what happened. Eddas in the Norse mythology are the tales and poems of the gods themselves. Sagas are stories and rumors are rumors. And so Eddas are considered to be factual. This is the actual way that these things were created or came to be among mankind. The sagas are stories of people who use these items in the past, and rumors may be true or false. It's just, things that you can seed out there to hopefully encourage your players to go chasing after these items.
Yeah, this is
and
this
yeah.
distinctly appeals to my Pokemon collector side. I'm like, when you start saying this stuff, I'm like, I would be kind of annoying. I feel like playing with this because I as a player, I'd be like, okay, I want to capture this spirit. Does this thing have a spirit? I want to do this.
Right. Yeah, I can't remember which one is in there, but I'm going to stop screen sharing here for a sec. I can't remember which one is, but somewhere in there we do have a Pokemon reference. Got to catch them all. It may be the axes. It may be the what is it? It may be Thorstein's gifts.
Funny.
Which is there's an impetus there to
Get them all.
there's an impetus there to get them all. And there are a couple of the items where the more that you get, the cooler that they get. But we did, part of it is we don't want to go too far down the sort of the Diablo-like hits. But I mean, for people who want to do it, there's always that. We tried to keep we tried to balance the degree of awesome we wanted to deliver with with an item or a weapon, and the complexity of managing it. So we recommend that you really keep the number of abilities that you stuff into a weapon to something that you can handle. Things like accuracy or an armor divisor show up on the stat line. You can chunk all of those in you want. But things that are active powers that you have to manage, or as an aura or a mind reading or whatever. But you don't want to have them too complicated, right? The whole point of Dungeon Fantasy role playing game is to try and smooth things at the table, and we tried to live up to that. And I think Marco did a nice job with the manuscript from that perspective.
You give the ability to add complexity, but not necessarily recommending adding the most complex thing all the time.
Right. And you can do whatever you want with it. I mean, that's the thing. And of course the books and the items are tied to Norse mythology because that's kind of what my license allows. But that's gonna change. The license isn't changing, but hopefully I'm gonna do more stuff. I'm contemplating a few other local settings, and David Pulver is writing a setting for me that's for the fantasy trip, but really is designed to be portable anywhere. And so what we're going to try and do is roll out more and more things that are not Nordland, because although obviously I think that Viking stuff is pretty cool, not everybody wants to play all Vikings all the time for some reason. And or if you have an ongoing campaign that doesn't fit it, right? Maybe Nordland is the island across the sea. So stuff like that. You have the ability to get on a boat and either visit Nordland or go somewhere else. And that'll hopefully blossom out in the future.
Nice. Yeah, and Nordland, you've done a lot with that, and I don't anticipate you'll stop completely. So if people are fans of that, that'll probably be around. But it's cool to expand into other stuff.
Well, and like Matt Rigsby, who's a prolific and high quality author, he's kind of done with Vikings. He was done with Vikings a long time ago, but there are things that he might like to write that if Steve Jackson Games is not doing something, then maybe Gaming Ballistic would. And if he has an idea for a setting that features, I don't know, dinosaur cavalry or something, I don't want to have to say no to that. No, make it Viking, because he's not going to do that, because he's that's not an area of interest. And so if he wants to do something, and I'm just picking on him
the
because
latitude to do that.
Because he has the latitude to do that. And I have a writer's guidelines for what I call the Infinite Archipelago. That is it's kind of a Nordland version of Seedry, right? Where TFT has this infinite playing field already baked into it. So I don't need anything special to just plunk down a new island or landmass and say, hey, this is, the great empire of Nordia. And whatever, right?
That's where we're from.
Yeah. So by Moria, if you're a Chuck fan. But what I wanted to do was allow people to exercise their creative and academic interests. Like if you happen to be an expert in Kamakura era Japan and you want to do something with the trappings of Kamakura era Japan, or you want to write something that's totally not Macedonian Greece, or if you happen to be an expert in the Ottoman Empire and you want to do something with that, I've got some writer's guidelines that say, okay, here's 250,000 square miles of land area, which is enough to have things widely separated, where you can plunk down something. I'm going to be a little bit judgmental, but I'm a little tired of, and I did this too, and I think it was a mistake. But I'm a little tired of, and the map runs off the page. It's a conceit of a lot of books and sort of lazy cartographers, where you don't bother drawing the entire island or map or world or whatever. You're like, and even, I mean, Tolkien got away with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had the Shire, and it kind of Mordor was off the page, but what's beyond Mordor? Nobody. What's east of Mordor? And stuff, and so you don't know, and it's almost unknowable because the author didn't do anything with that. So basically, I'm like, look, you can have 250,000 square miles, which is what, a 500 by 500 mile area. It's bound it with ocean, so you can sail away, thus the archipelago part. And you don't have to detail every square inch of it, but if somebody else comes along, it means that you don't have to invent a new map, or you say, this is the boundless realm across the sea. Boundless realms get a little old because it puts a lot of burden on a game master to fill it. And it also gives a scope of activity, I think. So blah, 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 Infinite Archipelago, accepting proposals. But for now, I got this one in Nordland, and the Isle of Cedra, and hopefully eventually the Isle of Elazar, a companion to it, which have already featured in several of David Pulver's solo adventures, will join the adventuring possibilities next to Nordland.
Yes.
Cedra is and the Scorpion Labyrinth. Let me see. I just put up a cover on that one.
Yeah, let's share some more stuff for people.
Yeah. So here's the Scorpion. It's I'm still deciding on what the covers are going to look like, but let me share the Scorpion Labyrinth, since the TFT is also something that I've done.
You should go for a sneak peek, guys.
Yeah. So this is I need to write I think it's called Meeble, but I need to this is actually the text is not so bad. It's going to say this is an adventure for like 33 to 35 point people for the fantasy trip. This is art by Rick Trula, where you've got a wizard and a hero inspecting a bas relief inside the labyrinth itself. But in the true time-tested method of delvers who are arguing over what to do about a plan, they're arguing so loudly they didn't bother to make perception rolls, and so they are about to get attacked by a giant scorpion, as people often are. Especially if you're from Australia or Arizona.
Yeah.
So,
check
but
your
yeah,
shoes
so
for those guys.
come again?
Gotta check your shoes for those guys.
Right. So, I mean, you need some big shoes if it's a scorpion that's big. But
Exactly.
yeah, so Rick Trula is one of my artists who's been working for me since Dungeon Grappling, my very first self-published book. And I've been publishing grappling books for a long, long time. So he's been with me for a long time, and he did the cover for this one, and I've got 2 more covers that are coming.
Awesome.
One of them is going to be for Monster Hunter Belladonna, which is a sequel to Vampire Hunter Belladonna, and the Isle of Cedric campaign book, which I think is looking at 32 pages. Maybe it'll, but that's exactly right. It's not Edirene, the big one that's got, I think, 80 or 90 pages in it. But it's going to be, here are the key locations, here's some cool stuff, geography, factions, go have fun. And people can write adventures in it or play or populate it as they want. And that's the kind of setting and lore that I'm hoping to set up for Archipelago.
Well, there we go. You did mention I was going to be able to make some weapons with you here.
Yes. Let's do it. Let's do
Sweet.
that. Let me do a little bit of quick prep. So let's get into Artifacts of Legend, and okay, so let's share a screen. So do you have dice?
I don't have dice on me here. Let me check.
Okay.
Do I just need D6s? I think.
Yeah, of course you just need 6s. This is GURPS
Just
after all.
checking. Just checking. I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Sweet. Because technically, we do make polyhedrals now.
Yeah, I know. It's like blasphemy and stuff.
It is. But technically, there's D6s in there, so you still do them.
Yeah,
I got a copy of July this year. I got some D6s.
There we go. All right, so let's keep this relatively simple.
Sure.
And let's say that we're gonna start with a let's do a minor item. So up to 3 minor abilities, and we'll make it a weapon just because. So why don't you give me a 2 1D rolls? So first die, second die.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got a 2 and a 5.
Okay, so 2 and a 5 is the second column. It's 1 minor ability, so this will be a small item. And so you'll go over to the melee and thrown weapon table.
Okay.
Give me another 1D roll.
1D roll. 3.
3 and sorry, 2 dice.
1.
3 and 1. So this would be a graceful weapon. And you would go
perfect
right?
for me.
There you go. And so where you would wind up is you would go look for graceful weapon, and I think I know what
this is cool.
Yeah, and so the graceful weapon is a weapon with this property never becomes unready after attacking.
Okay.
So right, so this would be like a huge axe that you can wield the way that they wield them in World of Warcraft or whatever, right? So some giant double-bitted stupid thing, or a demon blade or whatever. So here, and that's a great example, right? The graceful weapon is exactly the sort of thing that went into that winged axe from the spirit weapons.
Okay.
Right, because the air elemental is what makes it 3 pounds instead of 6 pounds. And it loses the properties that make you have to unready it, and the U parry and whatever. So if we were to do another one, let's do a major item this time.
Okay.
Yeah, so go ahead and give
One
me a
and
two,
one.
1 and 1.
5.
Yeah, roll that again. Let's do something more interesting.
Okay, yeah, that's not too much. 4, 2.
4, 2. Okay, so 2 minor and 1 major. All right, so you go to the table and give me the 2 1D rolls.
I think I'd roll 3 on the last one if I'm not mistaken. Let's try again. 2, 6.
So 2, 6, extending. Okay, do me one
Ooh.
more.
Okay. 6, 6.
6, 6. Ghost touch.
Yeah.
Extending, ghost touch. And give me one more of those for the major ability.
4 and 5.
Shape shifting 2. All right, so we'd scroll back, and extending is pretty much what it sounds like. It you can change your reach.
Okay.
So you're going to want something like an axe or a spear on
Yeah,
this
that'd be a
one.
spear for me, I think.
Okay. Ghost touch is
Right there.
can damage insubstantial beings and defend from their attacks as if they were tangible. So that's the I think it's called ghost weapon or affects spirits is the
Okay.
spell. And then shapeshift. Choose an animal. When you select this ability, you may turn into this animal.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
So it's a spear with like a glowing green blade that can damage ghosts.
Yep.
And it extends.
Yeah. But you can also turn into something. And just for fun, let's say like it's like one of these things where you go like, because of the extending stab, maybe it's the scorpion, right? Because it
It could be a
lash
scorpion.
out,
Could be
right?
Could be the striking snake or something like that. You turn into a snake.
Turn into a snake. That's right. Never. Although the evil overlord list suggests that you not turn into a snake because it never helps. But anyway, yeah. So with the second level, you may choose giant animals. So maybe you turn into the giant scorpion, or I don't know. Maybe you do an anteater with the tongue.
Oh,
So
that'd
right,
be
so
funny.
you create a dire anteater or something. But yeah, right. So then we could turn this around a little bit, and we say, well, what sort of thing would that turn into if you were to make it a spirit weapon instead of a legendary ability? And so you would say, okay, the spirit weapon version of that, maybe it has the spirit of a giant scorpion or an anteater or a dire anteater or whatever inside of it. And the spirit weapons has a bit of more than a little poetic license in it. So the extending and the ghost touch is pretty cool, but maybe you can summon, like the spirit can come out and like will fight beside you as an ally.
Yeah, it's more like it's a summonable ally.
Yeah,
instead of
summonable
just
ally,
being
and it lasts for a certain bit, and then
that's cool. I like that idea a lot.
then
That
goes away.
that
right.
itches
So,
that scratches that Pokemon itch that I had.
Right. And some of that is just it's an idea starter, and you really sorry, I'm reading Kiva's comment about hunters being
Replaced with a
replaced
pod
by a
person.
pod
I didn't want to
yeah.
interrupt you, but I was like, trust. I have actually been watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers over the past few days for some reason.
There we go.
And then they said pod first. I'm like, well, maybe I have. Now you're making me really think.
Right. But one of the fun things about this, and Varger Corsair says this earlier, and we comment about it, stuff the spirit of your dead PC into the gear of the replacement PC. If you have like I've been playing in Peter Del Orto's Fell Tower campaign recently, and we engaged in a series of colossally stupid behavior, and then hit a total party kill. But maybe whomever got the MVP during the total party kill hangs out and becomes one with their weapon. And so then you have loot in this persistent dungeon that Peter runs.
Oh, that's cool.
Right?
That's a really cool way of doing it.
Right. So
like a legacy of your
loot.
old campaigns and your new campaigns.
Exactly.
That'd be fun. Oh, that's a great way of doing it. I do want to remind people, since you guys are commenting, if you do have any questions, just drop them in there. We'll grab them at the end of the chat.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Let's explore that a little bit. So let's you mentioned maybe doing a hunter weapon. Let's do that. I'm
Okay.
curious because you don't have to do the charts necessarily if you
Right.
wanted to, but
Yeah, so let's think about that. Do we want to do like do we want to okay, so let's do this. Let's pull out the bestiary.
ooh yeah,
And oh, I know what we need to do. No, I'm not going to pull out the bestiary. I'm going to pull out the bugstiary.
yeah.
Because of the wonderful things he does. The bugstiary has one of my both favorite and least favorite. Let me share screen again.
Oh, and I did want to mention to people, so a lot of these other books that we're referencing, these are available through Gaming Ballistic right now. A lot of these have already been made.
Yeah. So all of the ones that I'm mentioning, the bestiary, the 3 Nightmare Fuel books, and honestly, unfortunately, they didn't quite have the curb appeal, I guess, as I was hoping that they would do as well as the original bestiary did. But these are fantastic books. It turned out really well, and it was also not all of them were by first time authors. I think everyone had at least published in Pyramid once. Maybe Marco hadn't, but I think he had. But this is Cole and Marco and Charles. Sorry, I knew Charles for a long time because we gamed together here in Minnesota, but I've known him by his handle so long that it took me a while to think about it. In any case, murder hornets, right? Everyone's least favorite giant hornet, right? And you can see the silhouette, right? So one of the fun things about these guys is that we decided that because they're huge and because they have these huge stingers, I think the stinger is like a third their body length, is that we decided to give them fencing skills. So they can like duel you with their stinger, which is ludicrous from a biological perspective, but it's awesome. So we did it anyway. And so if you look at these guys and you say, okay, let's stuff the spirit of a murder hornet swarm into a fencing dagger. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do this, right? So speaking of extending, right? The stinger comes out. Right? So you have a dagger that can attack instead of just reach C, you have to reach C and 1 without losing its ability to fight in close combat. It
could have some kind of a toxin or something like that.
Absolutely, it should have a toxin. Absolutely, it should have a toxin. And because what we'll do is we'll look at the stinger itself. Actually, you could just call it a stinger attack. And you take this attack right out of the bugstiary, 1D impaling, which is about right for a creature. 1D impaling with a 4D toxic attack, which is kind of badass. Right? So you make a hit roll, it stings out, and maybe it's got its own skill, right? So it's 16 skill, and you can target vitals and do whatever you want. But it's like do you remember the old Sword and the Sorcerer with that stupid 3-bladed sword that launched bits of itself out?
Yes.
Maybe it's a bit like that. You push the button and it shoots out. I had nightmares forever when the sorcerer pulled the poor sacrifice's heart out in the beginning of that movie.
Oh yeah.
That was not good for 12 or 13-year-old me. In any case, right. So you give it's a main gauche with that extending capability, and the toxin. Okay, great. That's all unalloyed good. However, it's a murder hornet. So you're going to need to make a contest of will, or else you maybe, let's see, what are its top, bad temper is a good one. What is it?
Well, we can even, there's a section here for murder hornet. Maybe that'll.
No, let's see what it
requires. Blindness.
That's the corrosive. Yeah. Well, that's it shoots a corrosive thing.
So
actually what would be a good one for this one, Wasps usually all out attack, and they keep stinging his wild swing. That sounds like Berserk to me. Battle Rage. They're
Yeah, that
Battle
makes
Rage 9,
sense.
right? So we give them Battle Rage, which is a particular form of Berserk, and Bloodlust, because they just keep going until the thing dies. So you have to pick up and let's go into Serpents and Legend and look at the cult personalities. And let's see, we need Bloodlust, Bad Temper, and Pyromania. That doesn't work. Bloodlust. All right, so we find a different one, right? So Bloodlust, Battle Rage,
You get
and
close.
Bad Temper, right? So you get close, but but basically this is kind of pulling one of the 25-point disadvantage modules from Delvers to Grow. Now, if you really want to get crazy, you invoke the corruption mechanics from the end of Marco's book here, where when you first call on the ability, if you lose the contest of will,
I love your placeholder snake.
yeah. Oh no, that's not a placeholder snake. That's in the
Oh,
book.
that's in there.
Oh, that's in the back of the book. Yeah. Now
That's
we have
amazing.
a special cover version that got sent out for free to the Kickstarter backers. That is the placeholder snake as a PDF, and there were some posters as well, but that was just for fun. But yeah, the placeholder snake was kind of our mascot.
That's awesome.
But so as you pick this up, every time you lose a quick cut, you invoke these abilities, if you lose a quick contest of will, you pick up this disadvantage package, but all of the self-control numbers are 15. And then every time you call on the abilities, if you lose that quick contest, or you need to set conditions, because if you stab 4 people in a fight, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're taken out of play because you're an evil NPC. But there's this corruption mechanic where if you keep calling on bad abilities, or kind of gray abilities that have this spirit, you're going to start acting out in the nature of whatever's inside. Now, if there is a Valkyrie inside, or a protective spirit inside, you will start acting out more and more like a Valkyrie, or it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Yeah,
there's a little bit of give and take on both sides there.
exactly. So there, it's really, one must be careful. Now, save or spectate is the phrase that my friend Merlin Avery, author of Forest End, like to use, which is, if you don't make your saving throw roll, you watch, right? This happens a lot if you get ganked by a ninja and you didn't see him coming, you get stabbed in the first round of the fight, and then you watch. And this happened in a game that I was playing with Kyle Norton and Ted Briggs and a bunch of other people. Ted got stabbed in the vitals from behind, and GURPS combats, when you do them fully tactically, can take a while, and he got ganked in the first round, and so it was okay. Now he gets to play on his phone or kibitz or do whatever. So you want to be very careful with, you use this item, now you have to change your character. So you want to give people the opportunity to opt in and opt out, right? Cursed items that you can't get rid of are part of the game. But you sort of sign on to play a particular character, and if you're not willing to role play through the disads, then you need to figure out what to do about that. So I really like the idea of how these spirit-bound items can influence the player characters and give them lots of opportunity, especially when you have an ability that is particularly useful, but you have to call upon it. I've got a Helm of All Seeing, which is basically you put on the magic helmet, which is described as the form-fitting face of a scowling warrior with a flared hood protecting the back of the neck and ruby red eyes.
Nope.
Totally not anything recognizable. But we've stuffed a Logos Googie, or no, a Grimdar, it's totally not a pit fiend. but we've stuffed a bad demon spirit in there to give it this ability, because it's one of the 2 creatures in the Northland Bestiary that have this all-seeing omniscient eye capability. And as soon as you put it on, it shows you the full range. You see all magic items, you see all spirits, you see all secret doors, you detect life. It knows it everything around. It's like a total all-seeing sense. You can't sneak up on it, et cetera, and it gives you like perception 17. So out to that range, like and -10 is 100 yards. So like, out to 100 yards, you still have a 15% chance of seeing anything coming your way. So it's a quite powerful ability. You put the helmet on, and it's DR10, and it's cool. So it's enlightened, and it's a great little helmet. But as soon as you put it on, for something like 5 to 30 minutes, it's like 1D times 5 minutes, it gives you this ability, and then it turns off. And if you want it to turn on again, you have to ask. And if you ask, you get corrupted. And every time you ask, you get corrupted again. So this is voluntary. There's no loss of player agency here. You can just wear the hat and take it's a nice little DR10 helmet. Or you can take advantage of the powers that it offers you, and get turned into an evil overlord over time. And so that's
awesome.
Artifacts of Saga has got a lot more of that kind of thing in it, where or like there's actually what do we call it? Not that one. It is called Dogubloth. Dogubloth is the Dawnblade. And it was made for gods, and if a mortal picks it up, it burns them badly because it's just too powerful. It's like like Thor said in what is it, in Infinity War? Oh, your body would crumble as your mind flees to insanity. You'd no way you could pick up Stormbringer or whatever would become Stormbringer. It's kind of like that, and so you need to have all these magical protections in order to lift lift and use the Dawnblade. So most of the items, there are a couple in sagas that there's a couple in sagas that have they're just unalloyed yay team good stuff. But we tried to be really good about splitting them more or less halfway and putting all the ones with bite or conflict into sagas.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that take on quote unquote cursed weapons and cursed items and stuff like that. It still gives you player agency, and that's important. I think it's kind of a modern game design take that sometimes gets carried over from old game design, where people are just like, it's a bad thing. You got to deal with the bad thing.
Yeah, it's a bad thing, and you can't get rid of it, right?
Yeah.
Even more fun, though, I think. And I look, I play old school games. I've got Old School Essentials, and I was a backer on the Shadow Dark Kickstarter that got like $1.3 million, and it's a cool game, and the creator Kelsey is awesome, and very approachable. But yeah, so it's one of those things where yes, you can have something that's all stick, right? This is the cursed item, and it sucks for you. Or you can have an item where it's cursed, but the player's opting into doing it. It's not that you can't get rid of it; you don't want to.
Yeah, it's just a cool thing to have.
It's
I want
just
a cool helmet.
Thing, right? Let's like, what is it? The old phrase, power corrupts, and absolute power is kind of neat.
Classic.
Right, items, some things are like that. So it's the more you have it, the more you want to use it, and that becomes part of the game, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. I'm gonna go to chat since we're kind of getting towards the end of our hour here. There was a funny little comment here. Kivadelix commented, "My dead PC is Shuri, catfolk wrestler. She's an innkeeper venturing to oppose an oppressive noble's taxation that forced her business closed, and she died leading a revolutionary war she started. If we stuffed her spirit into a weapon, what would you make it?" This one did get a reply though. XR, who you probably saw was commenting as well. A double-ended weapon, the Kasari flying guillotine, seems appropriate for a wrestler revolution. Your entire spirit was devoted to making the weapon work.
So yeah, I mean, certainly if you were going to do stuff something in there, so here's the question then: would that be something where she died leading. So he says, we died leading the revolution.
Mm.
And then, whatever it was that she was carrying. Right. So it
That
doesn't
would be a
have
fun
to
one
be
for like a
weapon.
torch. You mentioned torches
It,
earlier,
it,
which is
it
a
could
cool
be
way
a
of taking it,
torch. It
not
could
just
be
like a traditional weapon.
right. I mean, or it could be shoes or boots, right? So you
Mhm.
have,
Oh yeah,
perfect balance,
a wrestling belt.
right. Or yeah, exactly. Right. So
Okay.
it's the boots give you the, wrestling, maybe it comes with a wrestling master or a bunch of lifting strength,
Mhm.
extra
Some kind of
attack.
grapple. This could tie into your grappling.
Right. Extra attack, grapples only, or altered time. Well, altered time rate doesn't really work as well. But either extra attacks, because a lot of cool grappling combinations, especially with fantastic dungeon grappling, which everyone should be using.
Exactly.
Sorry,
Cross
channeling my inner Joe
sells.
Souza there. But like if you extra attacks is a great one for that because a lot of cool stuff with grappling requires multiple attacks to carry it off. First you parry and then you grab and then you need to develop that grapple and then you do a takedown and then you do a throw or whatever. And so being able to just go wham bam 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 is nifty. It
Cool little
slows the game down
combo.
briefly, but that's what the item is for. So like perfect balance and a couple of extra attacks. However, you would definitely pick up odious personal habit political slogans. Along with it, as well as maybe the vow to always keep yourself like you're always taking baths, right? Anytime you anytime you stop for a minute, all of a sudden you feel the urge to wash or something. Um,
That's
yeah.
great. Well, there
So
you go,
yeah.
Kiva. That's your weapon.
So, but yeah, I mean that's the thing is that it really I think it encourages some creativity in how these weapons are formed. And I think it's just a little bit more fun than going to Yield Magic Shop and mail ordering a special suit of armor.
Yeah, I don't want to
Um,
QVC my sword. I want to.
right. So it's yeah, the grappling is so good. It's just but a well, the Greeks would oil themselves up, so a little bit of a sautéed
There
grappler.
you go.
But Turbo wants to know when's the Isle of
Yeah,
Cedar dropping. Right now, I believe that it's scheduled to run from June 22nd through July 8th.
mark your
It's kind of the same.
calendars.
It's kind of the same thing that I usually do. I like 3 weekends. I like it to straddle a month, so that people who get paid one time or another, because I ran a couple Kickstarters that were like, oh, launches June 2nd, ends June 18th or whatever. People like, if you would have gone into July, I could have done it.
Yeah,
And so just to be respectful of people of people who have a game budget, as do many of us,
I'm
that
the
you must
same
stick
way.
with them.
A pre-order went live today, and I was like, you know what else went live today? My rent check.
Right. So, but yeah, one of the nice things about running 17 or 18 or 19 Kickstarters and fulfilling almost all of them earlier or on time, um, the one of the nice things is I was able to reach out to the Kickstarter Trust and Safety Committee and say, hey, I'd like to feather these so that one is not completely done necessarily by the time I launch the other one. And they're like, yeah, we looked into your record and
Done a
people
great
not
job.
just I mean it's if I can be self-deprecating a little bit here and a little bit whiny, I may not be able to market myself very well and I don't get thousands of backers to my Kickstarters, but damn it, I know how to execute.
There you
My last one was called Best Supporting Actors, which people who were had seen the Fantasy Trip character collections will recognize. But that went live. It ended the 2-week period to get paid. Went and 6 weeks after the campaign ended, pretty much everyone in the United States has their book, their hardcover already,
nice.
including cards. We did cards again for that. And the Australian oh, that reminds me. The Australian backers stuff is on their way, and so is the the European. I think the package of books is supposed to arrive from Mixam UK at Games Quest today. So that'll start going out real soon. But yeah, no, it's lickety split, and I figured out how to get this done. Maybe one day I'll have a really giant success, and I'll have to find a way to fulfill thousands of books. But I'm willing to take on the challenge.
There you go. Well, that tells everyone here back with confidence. And speaking of, make sure you do back Artifacts of Legends. It's got what, 9 more days? Am I crazy?
9 more days. It
9 more
today
days.
was
Nice,
yeah. It ends on the 10th. No, yes, it ends on the 10th of June.
Nice. So we're up to 280 backers. Let's push that even farther. Thank you, Doug, so much for joining us here. Thanks for everyone in chat was asking questions, interacting as well. I do want to mention, in addition to that, I'd be remiss. We also have a Kickstarter going. They want me to mention that too, probably. Tribes, if you want to check that out. Doesn't really coordinate with Dungeon Fantasy, but maybe you'll be interested in that. It's a fun social game if you have a chance to check it out. It's 4 to 8 players, so kind of a party game, convention game. A really fun little thing. Check that out. We'll link that in the comments. But Doug, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Is there any last words you have for us?
I guess what I'd say is, if you see this, if you're interested, obviously please back. But I think the more important part on this is to get the word out. For good reason, a lot of the social media and forum platforms are cracking down on self-promotion. So if I go onto a forum and say, "Hey, back my Kickstarter," you get banned or removed, or put into the shameless self-promotion file. That doesn't happen when other people talk about cool things. If I am enthusiastic about somebody else's product and I want to talk about it, by and large, that's well received. And so, if you see a tweet of mine, if you see a Facebook share, or if you just want to say, "Hey, here's the link to this cool live stream that we did with SJGames," and if you want to see more stuff, maybe check it out and back it. This particular project is self-sustained, meaning that it's self-contained, not self-sustained. I wish it were self-sustaining. It's self-contained in that I don't have all of my product line available as add-ons, and maybe that was a mistake, but I just wanted people to be able to come in, choose their pledge level, and scoot. But what that means is that I need people. I need lots of people. We'll fund at something like 375 or 400 people, and if we could get 600, that would be spectacular. But the people need to see it, it gets a little hard, for good reasons, right? I mean, there's so many Kickstarters and so many projects, but it's if you see something that you like and you want to see more of it, help spread the word, and that's really all I can ask.
Support the things you like. You want to see more of it. That's pretty much it. Well, thank you, and Doug. Thanks for everyone watching us here. If you missed it live, you'll check it out on YouTube very shortly. We'll get that up there as well tomorrow. And thanks again, Doug, for joining us. Go back Artifacts Legends, and we'll see you next time on SJGames Live.